stripped down, where I dig through the news and weed out all the nonsense so you guys don't have to. 30 minutes or less. Why? Because anything longer than that's probably just BS, anyways. Oh, so yeah, beautiful day today outside. Light breeze. Didn't really start until about noon, which normally is when the wind picks up and then doesn't stop until 8. It's 25 degrees Celsius. That's 75.2 degrees Fahrenheit to you guys down in the States. Like I said, beautiful day outside. Wish I kind of want to go do something outside, but then again, I'm pretty happy inside. So yeah, let's start off with some birthdays today. Today in 1878, Bill Robinson. He passed at the age of 71 in 1949. He was a singer slash tap dancer. Played alongside Shirley Temple, little Shirley Temple. You know, there's a drink named after her. Um, what is it? One of those mocktails. Looks like alcohol, but it's not alcohol. Shirley Temple. And then today in 1889, Russian, Ukrainian, and American aviator Igor Sikorsky, he passed in 1972 at the age of 83. Yeah, he got shuffled around there, eh? Poor Sikorsky. And then today in 1907, you knew the first prime minister of Burma. He passed in 1995 at the age of 87. And today in 1969, Anne Hatch. She passed tragically in a car accident at the age of 53. And probably remember her best from the movie I Know What You Did Last Summer. Yeah, there's some controversy over what happened to her in that car crash there. Just something didn't add up right. And today, Ian McKellen is 86 years old. You probably know him. He played Gandalf in The Lord of the Rings. And today in 1963, Canadian Mike Myers is 63 today. Actor, comedian, Saturday Night Live. Yeah, Mike Myers. The whole Austin Powers series, great. I don't know how many times I watched Gold Member. It's probably like my VHS player would. It was starting to get scratchy. That's how many times I watched. Yeah, and then VHS. Think about that. I went from a VHS collection to a DVD collection. Kind of sucked. Well, kind of. It made everything look smaller. And today in 1976, Killian Murphy, he's 50 years old today. He's the guy, he's like a British actor or Irish actor. He played the Scarecrow in The Dark Knight. So yeah, let's get into the news. Well, you know what the hell. Might as well do things that happened today in history. No, I was gonna do a little bit more with the news today, and I noticed I was starting to blend things and I switch it up a little bit. So today in 1720, the last outbreak of the bubonic plague that killed over 100,000 people. Last outbreak. So when did it really end, though? So I guess we'll find out. Hey, Greg. And today in 1952 or 1942, the first catalytic cracking facility begins production at Exxon, developed by the Four Horsemen. Developed by the Four Horsemen. Yeah. Uh, yeah, the Four Horsemen research team. The process that they're using, not or that process itself, produces about half of the world's gasoline as we know it today. You probably know what this catalytic cracking facility is. It's fracking. Yeah, and it's funny how ironic it was developed by the Four Horsemen research team from Exxon. And today in 1961, JFK announced an address that they would put a man on the moon by the end of the decade. Interesting. Today in 1961. And today in 1977, Star Wars A New Hope premieres for the first time. I was trying to find numbers on that to see how many people went to that, but I couldn't find any numbers for some reason. Like even a consistent number. And today in 2021, the US CDC says half of US adults are fully vaccinated, with 61% of them having their first shot. I don't believe those numbers. Half of the United States adults were fully vaccinated. I don't think so. I really don't think that that's what happened. So yeah, let's get into the news. Hey Tolga. So yeah, let's get into the news. So some issues coming up. Oh, sorry. Today's May 25th, Monday, 2026. It's 24 degrees Celsius at 75.2 degrees Fahrenheit to you guys down in the States. Okay, so some news here about the Canadian broadcast regulator here, the CRTC, has recently decided to require streaming platforms like Netflix and Disney an additional 10% on top of the 5% going towards Canadian content. Okay. So initially started off as 5%. The CDC wanted to see Canadian content be made out of Canadian funds, though. So funds that are going from Canada into Netflix and Disney and stuff, they wanted to see 5% of this funding get put into either making Canadian content or having more Canadian content, stuff like that. But the U.S. is tying this all up in legal battles and stuff, and it's turning into a political fiasco here. If you tell me, if you ask me, so right now, since 2024, they put in this Online Streamings Act here in Canada, which is asking these companies, hey, if you're going to use your services here, then you should kind of put some money aside for these countries or these places that you're streaming at, which I only find so fair. Like, and it's not like they're asking Netflix and Disney to take money out of their own income. This is money that is coming from Canada. So isn't it like kind of just fair that, you put 5% into it? Well, haven't seen that 5% being put into Canadian content. So the US or the Canadian federal government and the CRTC are like, okay, we're going to bump it up to 15%. And this is after already going through legal proceedings in the United States right now, still ongoing legal proceedings. So, what does this mean for Canadians right now? Really, it doesn't mean anything. US hasn't attempted to pay any of this into Canadian funds. So, if they didn't pay the 5%, what makes you think they're going to pay the 15%? That's the whole thing. So, there's Canadians on one side that are worried about oh, they're just going to bump our fees and stuff like that. Well, no, not necessarily. Like, yes, the funds are coming from Canada, but why would they? It's not like we're asking them to take something from themselves. And then on the other side, you have the political fiasco that's happening that's been created because of this Online Streamings Act. You know, yes, Netflix and Disney are fighting this in court. So it is what it is. I don't expect the consumers to really start being affected by this, especially for quite a while, because they're just going to lock this up in courts forever, unless they try and go after Canada. Say they do win, and then they go after Canada to make them pay their legal fees, which could be an issue too. That's where I could see this starting to start affecting the end users. But then you could always change your VPN address and then just say that you're watching from the US. So really, then they're gonna have to start cracking down on VPN addresses, and yes, you could just change it again. So this is another thing. They're just playing this weird back and forth game, and really, I don't see anything actually coming out of this. Because if they didn't pay the 5% in the first place, like you're not gonna get blood from a stone. And what makes you think you're gonna get the 15%? It just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it's just a shame that all the drivel that they have to put in the media, though, too. Like, I find most of this stuff, even if you have cable right now, it's all some form of like false reality TV programming that just doesn't make any sense. It's just brain rotting. That's what I just don't get it. And oh, did I just totally miss that? Yeah, I did totally miss that. So, speaking of Canadian news and stuff like that, the BC Aviation Museum near Victoria International Airport is getting a major piece of Canadian history, once owned actually by John Travolta. The DH-100 Vampire was Canada's first fighter jet and part of the Blue Devils acrobatic team. The Vampire was produced by de Havilland, a British company of 1920. Some of these aircraft were produced in Toronto, but most of them were made in the United Kingdom. Uh, this particular Vampire served from 1948 to 1958 and then was switched over and used for the Blue Devils acrobatic team from 1949 to 1951. Then was purchased by John Travolta in the late 80s and had it fully restored into a British war theme, old style British war theme kind of paint job to it. And then was purchased by a museum in New Brunswick, which is now liquidating all of their aircraft due to the fact that this museum lost funding, and they just can't afford to, house this one of a kind aircraft. And shout out to John Travolta, him and his love of aircraft. Thanks for restoring that jet and allowing it to come back to Canada. That's definitely a chip on his shoulder for sure. But wow, does that guy look weird now? Like, how do you look that young? And people say that can't be plastic surgery. Seriously. But it's good to see that this vampire is going to be is staying in Canadian soil instead of going somewhere else. So that's pretty cool. And if you guys go check out that jet if you can. I'm working on doing stuff in the background here. I just haven't got around to it yet. Uh, and the fighter jets. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm pretty sure we're stuck with the 16 initial jets that we have to purchase from the United States. I know there was an additional, I think, total about 18 to 20 jets in total. But I think now the Canadian government might be thinking of the Saab aircraft. They just did some major testing here in Canada with that, and in was it Greenland and Norway? They're demonstrating that aircraft and its practicality for this type of environment. So it just makes sense to have a couple of those on board. But like the way aviation is happening right now, what's the point of having manned aircraft? Like everyone keeps talking about what's the next gen aircraft. The next gen aircraft is going to be not piloted by anybody. So why put all that money and effort into something that's going to be obsolete in the next 5 to 8 years? And then over to this is a little bit of Turkey, a little bit of Canada here going on. Okay, so there's some small talk I've been hearing, some chatter happening online here about some aircraft going in between Turkey and Sudan. And yeah, apparently in large scale amounts, like these aren't small aircraft. Can't really see what they're unloading and can't get a good number on these aircraft. This is why I kind of don't want to talk about this, but after deep diving here, yeah, Turkey has been known to be a major hub for arms trafficking. So whether this is, a private company, there's a lot of like Blackwater and all these other companies right now who have subsidiary companies, airline companies that run under them under a subsidiary or CIA name, whatever. There's always like Air America, run by the CIA, purposely, transferring drugs and weapons to the Mexican cartel. But Turkey's been used as a hub like this for years. And as a little bit of more deep diving, Turkey in the past years has been known for, selling, what was it? Uh, what are they? Hold on. Cooperation. Yeah, so a severe, well, a large scale amount of blank weapons have been shipped from Turkey with the Turkish government actually knowing that, yeah, we're sending blank weapons over there. Well, yes, they abided by, the way the sanctions are. Yes, you can't arm this country. There's nothing illegal about them, sending guns that don't work to a country. Okay, they're just blank guns. It doesn't take much to be able to convert these weapons into functioning weapons. And the Turkish government does have some support for the Sudanese armed forces. It's, I guess, the better of the lesser evils. Like that's what it comes down to. But like I said, there's talk of Turkey right now being involved with this Sudan thing, and I think this is going to start being brought up a little bit more due to the fact that Canada right now has just done some agreements to, partnership with Turkey, when it comes to manufacture of ammunition and some of their drone technology. Canada wants to be a part of that. And then, having Turkey produce, our bullets, our munitions and stuff could be a good thing. But like I said, this could be an issue. Like I said earlier, it's just small talk. There's no real proof. And whether this is, Turkey doing this or some arms dealer, just sneaking weapons through, getting it from, an unfriendly country, take it to a friendly country, and then you get it back to an unfriendly country. It's just the way the arms trade works. And who knows? It could be U.S. government also bringing weapons into Sudan just for their purpose or just to stir up the pot. But yeah, with Canada being a kind of, I'd hate to see Canada get in the middle of this. I know Canada just spent another $116 million investment in maritime and Arctic security. I really don't think that's enough, to tell you the truth. And this is like for more. Uh, this will be for more like what's the word I'm looking for? This will be like more satellite technology and more like radar technology put throughout the Maritimes, like as a preemptive strike kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. Is Canada going to be walking a thin line there by doing this deal with Turkey? I don't really see anything like bad coming out of this due to the fact that, Turkey has been involved in doing this in the first place. And for Carney to sit there and make an agreement, I don't know, like you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs, and then who is the lesser evil? And like I said, it is what it is. But I think Carney might get some flack here over this in the next couple weeks here. And then there's some more stuff I want to talk about Turkey right now, but I want to do a little bit more deep diving in this. Turkey's government just did some pretty crazy stuff, putting some new legislation on the table when it comes to allowing foreign investors. And I want to do a lot more deep diving on this. So that'd be pretty interesting. So I'll just give you a heads up for tomorrow's show. So Turkey is going to give some major tax breaks to companies to move into Turkey. This could be up to 20 years tax break, which could be huge. And then they're going to lower inheritance fees, like taxation on inheritance and stuff like that. So I want to see exactly what they're all doing specifically with this bill. And by the looks of it, this bill has a pretty good chance of being signed in Turkey, just by what I've seen so far. They're really pushing to bring other foreign investors into the country and start expanding. There was already talk about 2 months ago with Netflix and some of these streaming services. Turkey is kind of thinking like, should we just kick them out if they don't want to be a part of this? But really, they opened the doors and offered them major tax breaks already to bring in foreign investors. But the thing is, they have to have people from Turkey working at these facilities. And this is months ago they had talked about this. So your data centers, your Netflix, any type of facility like that, you're going to have all these major tax breaks, but you have to have Turkish people working there. So yeah, it's getting a little bit bigger. It seems like this is getting a little bit more refined than what we were hearing about 2 months ago with Turkey talking about this. Seems like they're refining this down a little bit more. But I'll get a little bit more deeper into this tomorrow, just because I want a little bit more proper information here. But I don't know. It's good for Turkey, good for a lot of people too. And it's not like it's not going to be a tax haven for people. It's just giving them major tax breaks. So it's could be unfortunate to, some of the companies that are already in Turkey, kind of pushing them off to the side. Like, here, let's invest more in outside development than what we have here already, kind of pushing them off to the side and leaving them in the loof. So it could be a good thing, could be a bad thing for the smaller businesses throughout Turkey, and could be a good way to just weasel those people out. So it is what it is. Deadly. So that's pretty much it for the news tomorrow. Well, I'm gonna dig a lot more deeper in what's happening with the democratic side of what's happening with Turkey and these new laws that they want to enact. Yeah, because yeah, that's pretty interesting. I think the world market's gonna start taking eye at that. Oh, one more thing. Yes, Elon Musk's Starship was tested this weekend as well. It landed in the Indian Ocean. Yes, it did blow up. I know I was talking about a lot of people are investing heavily. Even BlackRock right now is investing heavily into, Elon Musk's space program here. So yes, the rocket did come, successful landing. They said praise to all this stuff. But yes, the rocket did explode. It was planned explosion. I don't know. They just want to get rid of the evidence. I have no idea why they wanted to explode this one. But yeah, as far as I know, yeah, their stock is going up right now, just after this test. And the Chinese government have launched three astronauts. I don't know. I guess you can't call them cosmonauts, eh? Because those would be Russian. Still communist, though, right? So I'll call them cosmonauts. So three Chinese cosmonauts into space, and they're planning on actually landing on the moon by 2030. So just a couple years away, and they seem to be really pushing for this right now. I know, like, now we have a whole nother type of space race happening. It's instead of between the Soviets and the Americans, it's between like China and America again. And it'd be interesting to see how this goes out. Is this going to be like kind of a debunking thing? What's China going to release, and what's the U.S. going to release? Because there's a lot of controversy between all of this. The times in between. Like, if we went to the moon the first time, well, why haven't we gone back since? It's there's just a whole lot of conspiracy behind all this. But it'd be interesting to see what the Chinese are going to find out when they get to the moon, and what type of experiments they plan on doing on the moon as well. And we don't hear a lot of talk about what the Chinese space program is doing. Like, they're working on a space station right now, and it's already has major plans for expansion. Like, this is why are we not hearing about this? And the space station the US has up there right now, it's coming to an end. I think they're planning on shutting that space station down by 2030. I think that was only the actual perceived expectations of that space station in the first place. You know, Stuff up there has a bad shelf life. Uh, and then there was some news about Chernobyl and some weird fungus that they're finding, and it's kind of like a shadow. They're describing it as, but this fungus they've noticed is actually eating radioactive material and actually surviving off of it, which is quite interesting. A lot of developers right now are getting a hold of this type of fungus and see if it has space capabilities. Start shielding the space stations with this, start analyzing it, maybe make a product with this type of fungus. But again, this is all new and speculative. But what would this mold do to people? That's another thing. So yeah, everything's always good to a point, and then they tell it's bad for you, just like everything else in the world. I'm surprised they haven't told us that microwaves are bad for us, because I almost guarantee every household across Canada, the United States, owns a microwave. Unless you live in the Appalachian Mountains or something like that, living with Bigfoot. Uh, Mark is gonna. And then, oh, I already gave Greg one. Anyone I'm missing here? No. Okay, everyone's good. Yeah. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for the news today, you guys. A lot of controversy about what Smith's doing. She's allowing this vote. And 2-4, I'm gonna send you a video you have to watch about this Alberta separatist just walking through a park asking people about, can I talk to you about, the referendum? And holy wow, does this guy get some flack? Like there's one guy even just threatens to beat the crap out of him. Like, don't. But the way this guy goes and does this, he's literally walking through a park with a separatist Alberta flag, wearing all the blue gear, and he's like literally yelling, "Hey, can I talk to you about the referendum?" Like, okay, first of all, you're coming off as harsh and brutal. Like, like come in calm. Like, this is why you signed the papers. You're one of those people. You have nothing else better to do than just shout out to the world until somebody listens to you. And it's sad. It's just sad. But 2-4, I'm gonna send you that video. It's absolutely hilarious to watch, but it's also very painful to watch because it hurts my brain that people have to think like this. Like, where is the common sense and the common logic gone? Like, really, like, right now what I'm hearing is like, okay, if they do this referendum, now they can really tighten up the loose ends with the vote, so they can do another referendum. This is their mentality right now, these separatists. Okay, we can sit there, and even if we don't get this vote through, that gives us another chance to refine it so we can have a better vote next time, get more people on board. Like, do you hear what you're saying? Like, it's like common sense has just completely gone out the window. And I just don't understand it. It just hurts my brain. And you talk to a lot of Canadians right now, and they don't even want to talk about it. It's because it's not worth talking about. It's absolute nonsense. And it would be interesting to see what happens when all this separation nonsense is over with. Because, like, what's her name? It was it uh, Christina Lynch and the other three there. Like, they're paying the price for everything just because of the protests they held in Ottawa. Like, okay, instead of doing something like that, maybe go after these people who are being paid by U.S. Funds to really kind of shake up Canada and see how far they can push their limits and see if they can crack us one way or another. But I'd definitely be looking into some of these people and where their funding is coming from, because I'd be going after them legally, or well, yeah, say just legally. But to tell you the truth, they should all be hung up by their ankles and all caned to death. Yes, there's compelling arguments on both sides, but you have to realize that a lot of people that are a part of this have absolutely no clue. They're just sheep playing follow the leader too. And a lot of people, what they're understanding is not what's computing when it comes to what their focus is on the separation. And then you still have the natives to deal with. Like, that's a whole nother ball game. And if the federal government hasn't won against them, what are the chances of Alberta? Like, think about that. You're just wasting your breath. Absolute wasting your breath. But that's it for the news today, you guys. I'll be back for Tuesday's show, 4 to 4:30 p.m. Central Time, Monday to Friday. Yeah. So yeah, we'll get into some more heavier topics tomorrow. I really want to talk about what's happening in Turkey, about that other thing. And I don't know, see where some of this actual federal funding is going to when it comes to Canada and its military. But I totally understand Canada needs to start investing into our military. It's been way too long, and we've been letting it slide way too much. And can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. So that's it. deadly. After show? Yeah, I'll do an after show. Okay, I'll see you guys, unless you guys want to stick around. I'll be right back. But I'll see the rest of you guys tomorrow. Peace out.